encroach into the residential side yard setbacks in PUD parcel 1. And I'm gonna turn it over to Elliot or to Luke.
Yep, so I put 2 polygons in here, and there's a reason for that. I'll try to explain this as simply as possible. Basically, the R2 zoning classification, which we have put as an acceptable use in this area, allows for single family and duplexes. Whether it's single family or duplex, there is a side yard setback for both of those. Our zoning ordinance says that under no circumstances will a patio or a deck encroach into a side yard setback. They can go into front and rear, but not side. Now, on the south side of the circle, there's duplexes that have patios, and I think some have decks and side yard setbacks. Well, that particular parcel in the PUD, it specifically says the setback on the side is 0. So there's no side setback. They can put patios and decks on the side. I think there were just a lot of moving parts to the rezoning that established residential in this area, and that kind of got overlooked when we were selecting the classification. At the same time, R2 is the only zoning category that allows for single family and duplexes, so it was the best choice for the site. Basically, but my understanding, and Caleb can expound on it if he wishes, is that they're developing a similar unit type to what's on the south side, duplexes that occupy the lots in a similar way, with rear loaded, fronted to Colonial Circle, and they'd like to do patios and decks inside yards. So be very similar to what's on the south side of the circle. That's about it. Happy to answer any questions.
I think I know what you're talking about. I mean, do you have any pictures of the south side?
Street view's got.
They got them on Street View.
Street view.
I thought you did.
See it.
Get out of Montana.
Did I miss it? Did you open the public hearing? Not yet. Okay. I wrote down the time then.
Open the public hearing for this amendment at 5:55.
Probably something similar to this.
Those.
Okay.
Yeah. What is the traditional side yard setback on these?
For a duplex in R2, I believe it's 10 feet.
Okay.
The buildings themselves, the separation, I think is 10 rather than 20, which is what it would be if you had those lots next to each other.
By the park is the same way, right? Closest to the park.
So this is just a function of the particular zoning that it resides in versus. This was done by PUD?
Yes.
Okay, and we,
The
The
PUD specifically
difference
says
is that
setbacks.
these duplexes that exist reside in the R3 district, which
or
doesn't
R2.
have setback for side. So it all gets back to the deck's not allowed in the side setback area.
And that's the R2 because that allows single and.
When there's
duplex.
R3, there's no side setback area because it can be 0. Thus, the decks can be there.
Okay.
You get over here, we said R2 because we knew what we were doing now, and we didn't think through the detail of decks in that side setback.
Is this gonna be the only thing we're gonna have to think about on this? Everything else looks to be,
I'm assuming that-
oh, well, I meant, okay, yes, please state your name.
Caleb Smith, Public Realty Company. Yeah, I think Elliot did a good job with the nuts and bolts of why we're here. We're not proposing any other changes. In fact, in the Plat 3 areas, we're kind of looking at this, the way those units laid out and the spacing we have, there's actually even a little bit more spacing than what you're seeing here on the street view. But again, nothing's changed. Everything's built. We've got mid-am in place. We've got lumen in place. You know, we're ready to go vertical as we were going in for building permits when we caught this issue. And I give Elliot credit. We talked through a lot of issues very quickly to figure out how to come forward with the right solution. And I think adjusting the PUD to allow those patios and decks into the side setback just seemed to make the most sense with everything we've done so far at this point in time. Certainly happy to answer any questions.
I'm assuming those privacy screens will be similar.
Yes.
Do you get any complaints with the way they're at now?
We don't, actually, these are pretty good sellers for us, which I personally wouldn't necessarily like having that kind of situation, but apparently a lot of people do like it because this isn't the only part of the metro area that we use these units, and they all sell well wherever they're placed. So apparently for a lot of folks, it's not that big of a deal.
Motion to approve.
Close public hearing.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing at 5:59. Any deliberation on the,
I don't think so. It seems pretty straightforward.
close the hearing, note of the time. Can I get a motion?
Regulator motions.
Samuel's on the second.
All in favor?
Aye. Oh, okay, that works. Roll call also works, but either works.
Brown says, yes, I'm all for it.
All right, number 6, public hearing and recommendation on a zoning amendment related to the barriers surrounding swimming pools. I'd like to open the public hearing at 6 PM. And Elliot or Luke?
Yep, so this is the city reacting to the adoption of the building code from 2018. Basically, in the past, we had, the building code had required a fence around any swimming pool in Norwalk or an alternative, which was a barrier that was rated to support a certain amount of weight. I think the way calculation worked, it was like a family of 4 could stand on the pool cover and not fall in. With the adoption of the 2018 building code, that we decided as a city to act in a manner to require a fence, no matter what, a fence or wall, just in case of, sure, you might have that pool cover, but your pool might be open. And then what's stopping a kid who doesn't know any better from running into the pool? It kind of renders the requirement of that cover moot. So this would be a simple addition to our pool section that requires a non-climbable fence or wall surrounding in some form a property with a pool. And worked with Tony Stravers, our building official, on getting the language written. So pretty simple. By far the longest section in our pool code, but I think it's important for public health, safety, and welfare.
Is there any public on the Zoom?
No one on Zoom?
Well, I guess I'd close then the public part. Do we have any deliberation?
Do we define swimming pools and spas somewhere? I'm thinking like the difference between like an in-ground pool versus, a nicer above ground. How do we distinguish that with this fence requirement?
So Luke, correct me if I'm wrong, it's anything more than 2 feet in depth of water. Might that be
Might be 18 inches. but,
18 inches? There's a measurement cutoff point where we consider it.
Like a
Right.
baby pool is not considered
Right.
an above
Does that
ground
put
pool.
most hot tubs in consideration of a pool?
A spa per our code is a hot tub.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, so that would apply for this.
I know a lot of people that have hot tubs that don't have fences.
We discussed that internally as staff, that may end up being a discussion point that we have. But from a staff perspective, we thought we'll just bring you the full fence thing and let you guys deliberate if you want to exempt out spas for that. So
I think you'll have half the city, I can tell you. Well, let me preface this. Obviously, I had a pool. I couldn't imagine not having a fence. I was before he could even dig for the pool, I had to have the fence up. I have a neighbor now, put a beautiful pool in. And I'm like, where's her fence? I mean, that's my first thing. I completely, I understand it's not gonna look great putting a fence around it or here nor where, but I don't think it even is a child. I think it could be your pet. It could be anybody. The second weirdest thing is teenagers know when you're not there. And they love to raid hot tubs and they love to raid. I mean, I don't know how many times our people were like friends of my kids that were just show up and be in the hot tub or the pool. It's just another, if you have the fence, at least you have another liability against, if they're gonna climb the fence and get in, then I feel like just all around, it's so much better for that family not to go to bed at night thinking, what if somebody sneaks in the backyard?
And so,
But I do agree on the hot tub.
so the building code still would require, you could leave spas out of this, and the building code would still have a requirement that you have to have the barrier around the spa area, the hot tub area, if you didn't have the right cover. The thing is, most people, when they buy a hot tub, buy a cover that meets those requirements. A, because it's a small surface area, right? So you don't have to worry so much about falling through like you do a big pool. And B, a lot of times they are like locking and stuff and all that, those types of things. So from that respect, most hot tubs meet the building code requirement as it is now today without needing a barrier. So you could conceivably remove spas from that sentence, and I think probably still get at what we as staff were kind of concerned about. I don't know that there was a opinion one way or another amongst staff. That's kind of where we left it as. Let's just say they need the barrier and then let you all kind of.
I just see that
discussion.
the person with the pool could turn around and look at half the neighborhood who has probably a spa sitting out in their backyard, but no fence, wondering why it's just their pool. I mean, I think you can start seeing the progression of that.
I'm a hard no on this. I just, if it's insurable and the hardcover meets the intent, then I don't see the need for a fence. So I just don't. I'm comfortable with it. If the person that owns the pool is comfortable with it, their insurance company is comfortable with it, I don't see why we regulate above and beyond what those two entities are willing to do. So.
This not less than 10 feet from each side of the pool. How much will that impact people who already have a fence that doesn't meet that requirement?
It shouldn't, because I mean, a pool has to have it's a 10-foot setback already from a property line. So most fences on property line are gonna be that far away.
Okay.
There might be some that, there might be an instance where something becomes non-conformity. And at that point, anything that becomes non-conforming via our zoning ordinance in general just is allowed to continue to exist. And then at the point in time when it's no longer there, then it just needs to be rebuilt in a conforming manner. So, you may have some that are too close. We really kind of locked in on that because every other part of our code says, don't put structures within 10 feet of things, mainly because you don't want people deciding I can jump off of that into my pool. And so we figured might as well say that a fence can't be that close either.
That non-conforming pool issue you had. Where did that end up?
You're talking the one that didn't have a fence?
Yeah, well, the one at Echo that was tucked like 8 feet from the house, like right outside that door.
We didn't,
We didn't, we said we weren't gonna allow it.
I think they had to move
Okay.
it.
I don't recall.
I think it went to adjustments.
That's what I thought too, that guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's reconfigured from where it
yeah,
was.
it is reconfigured. That property is, it's odd because the house is side loaded on the side,
Yeah,
decided
there's
to put all the stuff too, so.
Isn't there an easement on there or something?
I think it's on the, I think it's on the west side of the house.
No. You mean the pool?
No, the easement,
think
there's like
there's
a
an easement.
gas
Oh, the
easement
easement, sorry.
runs diagonally through there. But that ended up getting, the original plan they had ended up getting denied. They didn't show up to the meeting either by Board of Adjustment. But we worked with them on reconfiguring the shape.
There's two of these that got built with covers, correct? Within the city.
One of them is, I think, this one.
Yep.
Yeah, that one's out. It's
The other one you just had in there. In the, off of blue. Off of blue stem. Go to the, yep, right there, you can see the whole. Right, well, it's Prairie Ridge, Prairie Sage, right there by, yeah, you can see, right, keep going to the left. No, Lord. 6-3. You put in your top right corner.
Oh, there it is. Okay. I was looking at the wrong side. Yeah, that one is.
So yeah, the question really ends up being, do you feel the city should regulate above and beyond what insurance companies would? Sometimes cities do in those type, in certain areas. It's just a matter of where you think we should lie. From a staff perspective, I think we felt that there was enough reason to require it that we should. So
I'm not usually the libertarian of the group, but I'm gonna play that card tonight.
Just, I thought most states did the law on it. I mean, I think in Arizona and Florida, it's a state law to have a fence.
Most municipalities, yeah, almost everywhere it is.
I think we pulled ours from Ankeny. Copied their language and retooled it.
yeah, really, it's an issue of adopting the 2012, because the 2018 building code actually has a subsection now that's for pools and spas specifically. So it's like in 2018, they started getting more detailed about criteria for pools and spas. Thus, now we've decided that there's certain covers that meet a rating that don't require a fence.
So I'm gonna assume the insurance company is gonna have to come out and look at the cover.
You'd have to, I would assume when you get your coverage for that, you'd have to prove that it is a
And
durable.
we make them prove to us as well. I mean, because we're issuing building permits for a pool.
Gotcha.
So, we need to check to see, because, it used to be we would check to see if they have a barrier. And then it's like, oh, well, I don't need a barrier because I've got this covered. So we definitely confirm that those are the appropriate cover.
Did you want to add anything?
I think it's a good idea to have the fence, the barrier. I get AJ's perspective on it, but I'm so risk averse that I would like to see barriers up if we can get them. And I think it's pretty standard practice when it comes to pools.
So I'm gonna close the public hearing at 6:12 and ask for a motion and a vote. I'm sorry, Jason, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I do not, and I apologize for the music in the background, but I'm getting ready for a playoff soccer game.
No comment.
Can I make a motion?
I think the chair can make a motion. I think somebody else needs.
I can second the motion and vote against it.
Is that how we do it
That's
procedurally?
fine, yeah.
I'll make the motion then.
Do we want to exclude spas? Let's make sure we get that language right.
Yeah. I would exclude. I guess I'm not. I would exclude spots.
Yeah, you can give your opinion on.
Oh, yeah.
everything.
Yeah. I think we exclude spas.
Now, I have been around plenty because I think Nebraska also has to have fence pools.
I agree with excluding spas, and I apologize for the background music. I'm at a district soccer game.
And my sister-in-law even had, I would say that their pool fence was probably 6 feet. I mean, it was 6 feet of concrete, then the fence. So I think your 10 feet might be pushing it, but we'll can go into adjustments with that, but.
Yeah, but that, basically that 10 feet just mandates that if you do, it's got to be in the property line almost at a maximum, right? Or minimum.
No, that. Well, I'm saying the minimum could be smaller.
We were trying to find some.
Sure, middle ground. I
You know,
think we
because
can
the
go to
flip side is like,
adjustments.
you don't want to leave nothing out
Adjustments
there and
can go
have
to
it
that,
right next to a pool, and then you can't get out of the pool. So, yeah, it's tricky.
All right. AJ, did you want to make a
So,
motion?
I will second the motion.
And that is to exclude spas.
Correct.
To exclude spas.
Approval with the exclusion of spas.
You got it? Okay, ready for roll call? Okay, Thompson, Sager, Samuelson,
No,
Reganator,
I,
Grant,
I,
Brown,
Aye.
and McConnell.
cool. Moving on to number 7, city council update. Chief?
Yes, ma'am. I'm just going to comment that in the last council session, then we dealt with the addition that was before you at your last meeting, right? And you recall that there was some tension between the local residents there and as well. And some of the council members felt that the lack of basements was a problem to them. I felt that maybe we could do a better job on the design, having it fit in better with the community around it that existed, on the way things were laid out. And there was also another negative there. I can't remember. Luke, do you remember what the other concern was?
part of it was apartments, because even though we went to R3, or we said R3
Yeah,
density
there was
limits.
some concern about an additional density, and then it was basements, the appearance from Highway 28, so, or not 28, Beardsley, so,
Beardsley,
you know, what type of unit is along Beardsley? And then the other one was some questions about the 5-foot side yard setbacks
Okay.
for the single family.
I think on the rezoning piece of it, the council was concerned that they didn't want to change the zoning. Because there'd be an opportunity there if this development failed or if it changed hands, to be able to put apartments in there, things that we didn't care for. So we decided to approach it as leaving the zoning in place, but maybe with a special allowance for the PUD to be able to do the type of structures that he wanted in there. Anyway, I asked that the actual development be tabled until such time as there was an opportunity for everybody to meet, discuss it, and see if there's a way to kind of resolve some of the concerns. And that night, the developer met with folks that came in, you know, that were residents there, and they had a pretty good conversation. And then he visited with Luke and made an offer to move the townhomes up along Beardsley and to bring the condominiums, that's what it's called, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Condominiums back down behind those. The streets would all stay with you with the zone, right? It would just change those squares around. And so I met with the local residents and they were happy with it. They felt that was great. So now back to the developer, and after he modifies the design and brings it back to us, then we'll take another look at it. Possibly it could pass. I hope it does pass, you know. I think myself, I think the development is a good idea. It was just the way it was laid out that I had concerns. So we'll see how it all ends, but I think it'll have a happy ending, you know. But we appreciate the work you folks did. And it did be a lot of good to sit in and listen to the comments and the questions and discussions that y'all had, because it kind of clarified things in my mind as I went along, and I understood things a lot better. So I guess it gave me an advantage, you know, that way. That's really about all I have as far as the council goes, unless you have questions on something specific.
Was it the basement in the condos or the townhome?
They were concerned about the condos, but the comment was kind of general, and my thoughts on it are that, you know, we don't have an ordinance that requires basements, right?
Right.
And the only reason you might be able to push something like that because it's a PUD maybe. You know, I mean, you could make up things if people agree to them. Myself, I don't think that's going to be a showstopper. Right? But, you know, I can't speak for somebody else, but I'm thinking that we don't require that anywhere else, so it probably wouldn't be a showstopper here. And, we discussed maybe someday taking a look at structures generally, and, do you require like a hardened room, or if you did, what level would you require it? And it would just take a lot of looking to see whether or not, that's a practical thing, I guess, But anyway, that's the best answer I can give you, I guess.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. All right, thank you.
Thank you. And moving on to economic development, Miss Holly.
Just want to thank you guys, first of all, Luke and Elliot and everybody who thanked council last week, just with all these things happening, all these developments. It's just been such a great couple of years. And I know it takes all the different bodies that work towards these developments to make it happen. So thank you guys for your work on these. And I'll just kind of run through some of the projects that we're working on. Some of them you're probably very familiar with, and some may be kind of coming along. Just a couple of stats. So in the last 5 years, you guys are aware of the population growth over the 10-year span of the census, which was 43% in population. But dollars, just over the last 5 years, we added 26 million in new commercial value, which was a 57% increase. And then industrial, we added, because we track them separately, but industrial, we added 35 million in value, which is a 789% increase. So it's pretty good deal for a historically suburban residential type community that's now really kind of getting its own, presence in the commercial area and trying to balance out that tax base. So that was pretty good. And then, through those projects, we've added 400 new jobs to Norwalk and over 40 new businesses. So it's really coming along and getting competitive with the other metro communities that are growing so fast. So that's pretty fun. The groundbreaking last Thursday was amazing for Norwalk Central. I don't know how many of you were able to attend. There was a lot of people, a lot going on. So but that was great. I think we had all the news outlets there. So a lot of coverage for Norwalk. So, that development's over 70 acres of the public-private sports campus facilities, which you're very familiar with now as well. But just a lot going on already there. I think that we have 5 of the commercial parcels, either with a letter of intent or some form of purchase agreement underway. So that's pretty exciting, because I think that those commercial parcels are going to sell out really quickly here in this next year, especially now that the dirt is moving. So that was pretty satisfying for all of us to see the dirt moving, and talking about it with Ed there, you can kind of see the road structure coming into play. So then the next couple of timelines to go along with that project. So obviously mass grading is well underway. The streets will start this summer or fall infrastructure. Then the turf fields will begin construction, and the trail, and the facilities, the physical facilities. So our city rec facility and then the private sports and fitness facilities will start after that. We're still shooting for the completion date or opening dates of those facilities to be the end of 23 or very early 24. So they're moving along as quickly as they can. So that's exciting. And then what we have right now in terms of those LOIs and purchase agreements in place, some of them that we can, I guess, kind of talk about are the 2 larger chain coffee shops, a food retailer, a couple of auto related businesses, a hotel. So even though there was a change in the hotel location from North Shore, whole other long story there, but thankfully the hotel development group is staying in Norwalk. And so they are working on a parcel in Norwalk Central. So we're hoping that all works out for their flag in that location, but it would still be the 4-story, 82 rooms, pool, patio, all of the everything intended on the former locations. That's exciting. And then we've had 2 other hotels looking in that same area. I don't know if they can all fit in the next, couple of years, but once it's all fully built out and we have all of those tournaments and everything going on, I think we'll need 3 hotels, honestly, pretty quickly. So that's all going good. I think we're calling it Legacy Commercial, the Johnson second building. So that's,
We're not calling it that.
that's
The
what
lack of creative name is calling it that.
is one thing, but yeah. So that's getting ready to get built here pretty soon. I think they just have 1 space still available. That may have even been pre-leased in the last couple of weeks since I talked to them, but that's exciting, just knowing that we have more commercial spaces coming online because we have such a wait list of people that need the space. There will be another retail facility built in Norwalk Central as well, south of the existing one. So we'll have some spaces coming up pretty soon, which is good. Then the old Culver site, if you guys remember where we had the Culvers purchase that land to the north of City State. So development group has purchased that land and they're kind of in the process of putting together their preliminary site plans and designs, but they have a retail center that'll go on the kind of the main parcel just north of City State. That'll be pretty good size, like 7,000 square feet, a couple of end cap available for, you know, drive-throughs, restaurants and things like that. And then they'll subdivide and have 2 to 3 outlots for more commercial opportunities, and they can do build to suit, or anybody can just come in and work with them on that development. So that's also good, just knowing we have that commercial space coming available soon. And then we have a development group that also has about 40 acres of land under contract. They've got a couple months of due diligence, but the southern industrial corridor that we're, you know, really trying to focus on for a second certified site just south of our current certified site, Michael Foods in Windsor. So all the kind of ag land that's south of that, you know, we've really been heavily focusing on developing infrastructure and preparing that area for future growth. So now that we have about 40 acres under contract, that will kind of help us open that door and get in there and start to work on that area so that we can maybe someday get ourselves all the way out to I-35 long-term goal. But that's good because this development group will start to build out a build to suit light industrial warehouse manufacturing park, business park. And they have, I think, 3 commercial or industrial businesses ready to start building as soon as they have the land closed on and infrastructure is in place. So that's also very good because we really want to continue our industrial growth. It's great for the tax base and jobs. And then just a couple more things here really quickly. So our international partnership that we have with Kosovo, that's going really strong again, kind of took a little break over the COVID weirdness. But last week, the Prime Minister and the Secretary of Defense and their military and trade delegations were here and they asked Norwalk to be a part of it. And so that was pretty exciting. They're very focused on kicking into motion this year the missions for the cross-border trade and economic development project. So we want to do a lot of business expansion between Iowa and Kosovo. So we have some companies lined up for that. We'll go to Kosovo in July for the delegation. And then we had our police department involved in providing security while they were here, kind of took the place of Secret Service. So Norwalk got noticed for that too. So they did a great job. And then just the last thing is just keep in mind that we still have the commercial grant improvement funds available each year. We started out with 150 a year, 150,000 per year. And then we've dropped it down to about 130,000 per year just for a couple of years since we have all these other projects going on. But it's still a lot because each building or business can qualify for up to 50,000 to make their facade or value added improvements as long as their building's 10 years old or older. So it helped quite a few of those. They look good. And it also applies towards demolition. So if there's an old dilapidated building and somebody wants to take it down and put up a new commercial building, we can give them money towards that as well, which is pretty good. So other than that, if you guys have any questions on other projects or developments, we still get asked about Hy-Vee. Anything you might have heard, I'm always here to answer what I can.
I just want to follow up a little bit on what Holly's reporting there. First, she does a fantastic job. Okay, we really do appreciate what she's doing. Secondly, you need to understand that one of the strategic goals for the city council is balancing commercial and residential properties for tax base, right? West Des Moines is in pretty good shape. West Des Moines is a motor that's running and everything's well and good. And I think their tax base runs about 60-40, as I recall. Seems like it's about 40% commercial, somewhere right there. So our goal is to reach that lofty height at some point. Now, the downside of that is that we're growing residential, right? But that's good and it's bad at the same time, because as the pie gets bigger, then you have to get that much bigger a piece to counterbalance the growth over residential in order to move those percentages. So while she's doing a fantastic job of bringing a lot of stuff in, we still have a desire for that much more, right? Because it's gonna take that much more to be able to move the percentages. So our support will be there for a long time, and emphasis for a long time on trying to do as much commercial development, non-residential development as we can to try to take some of the tax pressure off the residential taxes. That's the goal behind it.
And industrial has such a heavy impact, you know, it fills that gap so much quicker than just regular commercial, so that's a heavy focus.
Yeah. It's all pretty nice to us.
Mhm.
We appreciate it. Anyway, thank you.
Is the grant through the philanthropic? Who's the grant from?
It's just through our department.
Okay.
So it's just city funding. We use TIF because it goes back into that initial purpose of TIF, I guess, which is redevelopment.
We kind of thought that would be a way to bring it to existing businesses too, so TIF benefited them as well. You know.
Yeah, Young and Co Beauty, they were the first ones, I think, to take advantage of the demolition part of that grant, but we've had a lot of the older buildings do.
That was money well spent.
Yeah, that was a great one. They look awesome. Good business.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
And moving on to Mr. Luke.
Try to keep it short here. Obviously, you are aware of Judy moving on with a new opportunity in Indiana. So she will no longer be our chair. So we have a vacancy in our chair being filled currently by Donna, our vice chair. So we'll need to do a vote in the future to, I don't know if you want to take on the chair role or if someone else wants to step up. We'll have to have that discussion at P&Z in the future. Also have a member opening, so we're trying to fill that as well. So if you know of anybody that you think would like to do it, they can apply and we'll take a look. So that's that. The other thing we wanted to talk about was our next meeting date is June 13th. But we're gonna do a poll to see if you all would be willing to meet on the 6th. We have a general policy that when P&Z and council fall in the same week, we don't move forward any P&Z items to the council because the council agenda is kind of already set by the time we hold our P&Z meeting. And we right now are hoping to have it today, but we weren't quite ready with it on the Norwalk Central and Sportsplex building. So we're talking our actual field house building, the core building, and the Sportsplex building, and the site plan for all the parking and all of that. So if we hold our meeting on the 13th, that means we can't approve the project to start working until July at city council. So we're hoping that we can get a quorum to hold the meeting on the 6th, which would be 2 weeks from today. And that will let us get a item on the council for June 16th. So kind of let everything move a couple weeks up in the time frame. So.
And Luke, just to add to that, there's always time sensitivities, I know, on every project, but they're trying to get the bid letting and trying to get the buildings ordered before inflation and all that stuff gets really crazy, because they really want to try to lock in some of those prices for the city so we can keep that budget in check. So yeah, if it's possible to keep the timing, that's.
So Elliot will send out a poll to see if we can have quorum, and if we have quorum for that, we'll probably just plan on doing it on the 6th, so we can keep that project moving.
Anything, Elliot?
No, that's it from our side.
Comp plan, you get a date for,
July 14th. It's gonna be our open house for our comprehensive plan. It'll be at the Lakewood cafeteria. We'll do some more formal announcements on that as we get closer. So we'll get it out there for everyone. Right now on that side, just working to kind of finalize and formalize our goals and strategies, which are kind of the last part of the plan. But it's like every day I read something else and think, oh, I wonder if they can put that in the plan. So then I keep sending stuff to them. I just asked them today if they could rewrite our transportation section. So we'll see what they say about that. But yeah. So.
I thought council discussion on burying power lines over here on 50th was an interesting conversation, and working that into future code.
Yep.
Because you don't realize how bad power lines look until you get used to not having them around.
Yep.
Fantastic. So tentatively, our next meeting date is not June 13th, it's June 6th at 5:45. And can I get a motion to adjourn?
Regulator motions.
Samus in a second.
Everyone?
All right. We're done.
Thanks for calling in, Jason. Good luck
30-30.
tonight.
You bet. Yeah, thank you. Game just started.
All right.
Enjoy.
Go Norwalk. Go Norwalk. All right.
Well, Holly, you have a nice
You
evening.
too, then.
It was fun hearing your report. Bill.
Getting a summarized version.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.